Hi, so I've just put the phone down on someone who is extremely stressed. He's got £8 to last him till Wednesday. Today is Saturday morning, and he is really scared. He's very desperate. He's living on a friend's floor. He's got debt all over the place. He doesn't know which way to turn. He's got £8 left, but he has got a fridge with food in it that will last him till Wednesday. He's got a bicycle. He said it's not in very good condition. He can bicycle to work. I didn't go into too much detail what that means, but I reminded him again that the bottom line is we don't borrow ever again. And he was getting quieter and, sounding very, very stressed. And he said the problem was that his overdraft, and this is such a classic, which is why I think it's a good example and why I should go into it in quite a lot of detail, is his salary will come in. His overdraft is so extensive that once his salary comes in, his overdraft will be cleared plus a very small amount. And this is very confusing, so I'll try and take you through it step by step and little bit by little bit. So I was explaining to him that the idea, the way I work and what I suggest and what has worked incredibly well for me is the idea is not to increase your debt, not increase your debt at all, literally one day at a time. So his overdraft is a debt. If he increases it, that is not good. But if he maintains the maximum, that's the amount of overdraft, say minus £1, that's going to work. So what does this look like? So I'm going to just make these figures up now. They don't apply to him. But let's say my overdraft is £1,000 and my income, my salary, my wages, my payoff, whatever it is that you get coming in, comes to £1,500, and I get that every month. What happens then is my overdraft disappears for a period of time, but I've only got £500 left to live on for the month. In my experience, that doesn't work. It's either some people can do it. Some people literally live on sort of rice and water for a month and then they can clear their overdraft. That to me doesn't work. What I've got to do is learn how to live within my means, not just sort of go from feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine. It doesn't change the habits of a lifetime. So my suggestion is you either pay it into that account where you have the overdraft, leaving you £500, and depending on how much you need, and that's something I'll go into a lot of detail, at another video. This video is about how to think about your overdraft. So let's say you then spend for the remaining months your £500, which you have, plus £999. So in effect, you're only paying your overdraft £1. And that's scary, but that's doable. So let's think of it like a fish tank. The fish tank gets right down to the bottom. Your fish are dying. You're in overdraft. Your salary comes in. You fill the fish tank up again. Your fish are alive, and you've got a little bit of leeway at the top. And that's what you're trying to live on. But you can't, so you empty the fish tank again. You go, oh, I've got rid of the overdraft. What a star am I? Yeah, but you can't live. Your fish are dying again. So you put your salary in just in time, and so on and so forth. And what you're doing is up and down, up and down, up and down. And what we want is a genuine and consistent, that tank staying the same. So, as I say, you get your overdraft is £1,000. Your salary income every month is £1,500. You don't try and live off £500. Certainly living in London, that ain't gonna work. unless you live up a tree or something, it's just not viable. So what you do is you make a plan to live on the £500 that you have, but continue with your debt. An overdraft is always a debt, but minus £1. Now, because this, for people like me, is very complicated, I find it, I can explain it to someone and I can do it now, but when I first started to try and live without debting, this was very confusing. So what I suggest in this country, UK, bank accounts are free, is open up a new bank account, what I call a clean one. Open up a new bank account, get your salary paid into the new bank account, and then pay your previous bank a small amount of money every month until that overdraft's gone. So it might only be £1, it might be £5, it might be £10 that you pay into the overdrawn bank account. But the current bank account that you are using for your income to go into has no overdraft. I think all banks now have signed up that it's a £35 blank rate every time you go into overdraft. I don't know, because I don't use my overdraft because I don't need to. But in the beginning, this will also add to the confusion. You'll be like, but I have to pay, I have to pay. Yes, you do. You have to pay. You can, however, approach, and I always suggest this in writing, approach your bank, the one that's overdrawn, with due humility. Don't go in there with all guns blazing and saying, how very dare you, you're all bastards, not going to work. You go in there with real humility and saying, look, I have every intention of clearing this overdraft. However, it's going to take some time, as I've got into a bit of a mess, but I do have every intention at this particular time. And I'd write this out. It's in my book, The Debtologist, but write this out very plainly. I owe you this. I have every intention of paying it off. However, my circumstances are such, you don't have to go into any more than that, that I can't pay more than whatever it is, £5, £10 a month. And then you ask, not demand, that the overdraft facility has its charges removed. They might choose to do that, they might not choose to do that, or they might do that over a period of time if you are consistent. So much of this is about consistency. I was never consistent about anything. Not in what I earned, what I spent, what I paid, what I got overdrawn. It was just, I don't really know how I got through the day. It was such a muddle, which exhausted me and everybody around me. It was just a confused mess. So learning to be consistent and showing the overdrawn bank account that you are consistent, whether it's a computer or whether it's an individual, it doesn't matter. Over a period of time, if you pay consistently what you've said you'd pay, and you ask, not demand, that the charges are removed, they often will remove them. And then the thing is to stay with it. And you can set up a standing order. You can go there, as I did in the early days. I'd literally go there with pennies almost. It was pounds, but I would go into each one of my creditors and I would, this £5 is for this £5 is for that. And in some cases it was 50 pence, it was very, very low amounts. And bit by bit, as I showed that consistently and I developed in those days, it was much easier to have a face-to-face with the cashiers behind the desk. Now there's very few and far between, but it's the same principle. And they would get to know me and we'd sort of, oh, hi, it's me again, Monday morning, here you are. One was Tuesday morning in Chelsea, another one was Monday in Holborn. I think Thursdays, I did it for so long, but I've still forgotten. I think Thursdays was in the City of London, but it was like these small amounts to the creditors, small amounts to the creditors. And gradually two things happened. I had all the charges were waived for the period that I was consistent. I had a relationship with the people. So why did that help? It helped me realise they're human, I suppose. It helped me, get added information on how the system worked. And it became a relatively pleasant thing to do. It was just something I did. It didn't become a huge emotional, they're all bastards trying to take blood out of me. They weren't. They were just trying to collect the money that I'd taken in good faith on their side, and I'd broken the agreement again and again and again. The other thing it did is I can't quite describe this, you have to really experience it, but it gave me the experience of learning to live with debt. It sounds bizarre, but I always thought that if I had no debt, I would be happy. But bizarrely, every time I came out of debt, I'd just get to this tipping point and then I'd find some mad rationale to borrow again. And this up and down, it was like being seasick all the time. And learning to live with my debt, I always had it on my left shoulder. My debt there, me here, I had to carry on with a life. I had to pay rent, I had to pay utility charges, transport charges, food. I even had to have, it was suggested that I make sure I buy myself a bunch of flowers every week. 50p, that's what I had allocated to buy myself flowers. Go to coffee shops to meet up with friends, go to the cinema. All these things, I was of value enough to make sure I did these things, and in the process of doing these things I learnt how uncomfortable it was to genuinely look after myself, do things that I like doing. Sounds so bizarre, and that's why I say it's an experience thing. I'd get this huge again, it was a sort of mental backwash of things like, not another bloody bunch of flowers, who's going to see those? Well, me. Yeah, but you don't really give a shit. You don't matter. You don't need that bunch of flowers. And sometimes I would be like, oh God, I've got to get my bunch of flowers. And I would then hear all the voices in my head that told me I shouldn't have them. People talk about whether these voices saying you're not deserving. I don't think that really made much sense to me. I just thought, no, what's the point? I'd got to the point of such depression and life's not worth living. It's quite difficult. It's sort of lethargy, melancholy. It's like, what good's a bunch of flowers going to do? Okay, I'll make myself do it. I'll still do it. I'm more than 50p now. But it does give me a sense of, oh, that's lovely. It's over there. Oh, that's nice. I chose that. Yeah, I wanted that. Yeah, that looks good. Oh, I've got the so-and-so type of, at the moment I've got an orange urn and a orange something else. So I'll get flowers to match. It just gives me a different way of thinking that's quite fun. And I enjoy it now. But in the beginning, I found that 50p really pathetic, annoying, stupid. But that was an incident of things changing. And this is why, for me, getting rid of your overdraft, apart from making life really painful, it's a process of learning to live with your debt. Your debt's over here. You are managing it. You are, or the Americans call it stewarding. I'm stewarding my debt, or whatever it is. It's over there. As long as I don't increase it and try and decrease it by nominal amounts on a regular basis, it'll just become over there. I will learn to live without this debt taking over the whole of my life. The way I think, my thoughts. Someone was talking the other day, which I really got, was my brain doesn't ever switch off working like a computer. And I was like, oh God, I remember that. It wasn't a computer. I didn't know about computers then. But it was like a calculator. It was always, well, if I spend this and I save on that and I don't do this and I do that, and then the money will come in, which it sometimes didn't. It was always like, if, then this is going to happen. Sometimes it did, but the majority of times it didn't. And then it got to the point where it was just too difficult to do anything. And my brain would explode. If I have an overdraft and I know that I have a standing order for an amount that I genuinely can afford, don't overestimate this. I'll come back to that in a minute, but I genuinely can afford, and I put the standing order in, and that pays off a tiny amount of that overdraft. And I've seen literally hundreds of thousands being dealt with this way, and it works. As I learn to live within the parameters of what my salary, my income, my whatever, you can have your own small business, it doesn't really matter. whatever's coming in, I'm actually living within that, a reasonably comfortable life. It's not about hair shirts. It's not about living on bread and water. You can do that if you want to, but I suspect it won't work. Suddenly, you know, it's the old analogy of the elastic band, pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and then you're back in debt again. It's like, fuck, I deserve, you know, I shouldn't have to live like this. So this is why, to me, overdrafts can be very confusing for a debtor, because we think, oh, we've got to pay it off, oh, we've got to pay it off, it's going to cost us money, we've got to pay it off, and what about my credit rating? And your credit rating will be fine, you know, it will be fine, because if you don't default, and defaulting is you know, again, a bit of a movable feast, but most financial institutions now, this includes credit cards, it includes overdrafts, even it includes friends. You know, if you say to friends, you know, I fucked up, I said that 50 quid you'd lent me, I would pay back, I can't. You don't even say, is it okay? I can pay back £5 a month, a week, whatever. So that's another subject of how you work out what you can afford, because most of us are massively optimistic or pessimistic about what we really can afford. And it's very important for us to get clear about what is affording. What does that mean? What does it mean planning our spending in a way that we can have a life? Might not be fabulously opulent initially, but if we're carrying all that debt, plus all the charges, plus all the mental headspace it takes up, it becomes very, very difficult to, you know, live a life which is, you know, a lot freer and a lot more fun. Bizarrely, with me anyway, I found that once I had all that freedom and I had as much time and I had as much, you know, space in my head and my thinking, I was very, very confused, because I was so used to filling that up with, how am I going to deal with the debt? How am I going to deal with the debt? How am I going to, oops, I've created more debt. So these are the basics that I would suggest: is open a bank account if you can. That might, you know, it's not essential, or a savings account. Arrange for your salary, your wages, whatever form it comes in, to go into that account, and then from that account, pay towards your old bank account or institution, whatever it is, a small amount every month. And bit by bit by bit, it'll feel too slow initially. You just go, this is ridiculous. It'll never get cleared. But in my experience, what tends to happen is the spending shifts. It changes. There's something happens where the spending becomes more rational, more real, and then sometimes the income goes up. So I don't know, but I haven't done it for so long. I've got about 8 accounts. They're all dedicated for different things, but the income goes into one account and then it gets split amongst the different accounts. I don't have any debt anymore of any sort. I don't use credit cards. I don't have a bank. Apparently I do have a bank, an overdraft, which I didn't know I had, which was arranged by my bank without me really knowing. So I rang them up a few weeks ago and I said, I don't want an overdraft. And they said, well, you have to have one. You don't have to use it, but the minute you go into it, it'll be £35. And I was like, okay, I will carry on with my regular habits around my bank account. It's a bit difficult because sometimes on the statements, it says you have this much to spend, which is the amount I actually have, but including the overdraft that they've given me that I don't want. They can change their system to suit me if I bully them and shout at them long enough, but I don't think they will. Or I can just take responsibility and go, no, I haven't got 5,000 in my bank account. I've got 3,000 plus the ability to get overdrawn to £2,000, which is debt. An overdraft is debt. It's money I don't have. It's money that I don't know about you, but I've gone through quite a few crashes now, which have all been unexpected. People would say, oh my God, I never knew. Well, if I don't have any debt, it's not going to cause me a problem. If the banks close all of a sudden, which happened in, was it 2006, 2007, one of the banks, Northern Rock, suddenly closed. There was a massive rush on it for people to bring their money out. I think it was all backed by the government in the end, but people were really freaked out and really scared. Some of those people, because they were quite overdrawn, when the bank did fold, which it did, Northern Rock, if you want to look it up, some of the people who owed the bank quite a lot of money found that that debt was bought by another, not a bank, but by another institution. And those institutions started collecting the money from them for that debt, which had a very high interest rate. And some to this day are still paying off that debt. Most of them are in the form of mortgages, because very few institutions want to buy debt that's just cash only. They want to buy debt that is secured. And I have to go into that at a later stage, the difference between secured debt and unsecured debt. So secured debt is mortgage. That's where your house goes if you don't pay. You just lose the house. And you can have a secured debt if there are very small amounts that you feel you have to have. You have to have that £20. Hand over your laptop for that £20 and say to the person who's giving you the £20 and who's taken the laptop, when I give you that £20, you will give me that laptop back. And then see how badly you really want that £20. Because once it's secure, you really think twice. You take the car. Actually, it's quite difficult with cars because you have to sign them over. But you can certainly put items over, but make sure the value of the item that the other person is holding is higher than the cash they're giving you. And you definitely think very carefully about whether you really want that 20 quid or whatever it is. So bank accounts and overdrafts are a bit confusing. You don't, in my way of working things, you do not get rid of the overdraft instantly. All that'll happen is you'll have to go back into debt again. And that's one of the primary things I'm suggesting you never do again. You just stop borrowing. That does not mean you pay off the debt quickly. Sometimes it might take years, sometimes it might take months. It's different for everybody, and everybody's circumstances are different. A friend of mine, I think it's taken 30 years or something to pay off her debt. And even when it got down to like £300 or something, she made sure she still paid off that. It was to an institution. She said, I'm still going to pay off £5 every month because I want to have a reminder every month that I have a problem with debt. And this is how long it's taken to clear it. I think she's cleared it now. I haven't actually had an update. But these are sort of things that I find really help change my thinking, my behaviour. I really start to feel the emotional impact of borrowing money, both plus and minus, because I promise you there's a plus to it as well. And the emotional impact of coming out of debt and suddenly going, oh my God, I've got all these choices. There's all this free time and space. And I want to spend the day shopping. That's all I want to do. There's nothing else to do. And that's what this guy just said to me on the phone. He said, normally I would drop about £500 on the weekend. He said, I've got £7. And I said, well, that's where real creativity comes into it. £7 is sort of 2.5 cups of coffee. £7 is, a tube fare. No, it's not. It's a couple of tube fares. But I said, all this will start getting you really creative in the way you think. And I could hear his brain just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. We're such creatures of habit, those of us who debt. We don't think we are, but we really are. We have to find opportunities, times, places, institutions, whatever that we can borrow from in order to go back into fantasy, either flashing a credit card or signing up for an item on various, Amazons and eBays and whatever, to get things that when they actually arrive. I got a juicer the other day, and anyway, someone wanted to get rid of it, and she said I could have it for 12 quid. It's a perfectly good juicer. She's hardly ever used it. The retail price is about, I think I looked it up, it's £99 or something. I don't think I need a juicer. I don't think I'm going to use it. But I was like, okay, I've always thought about juicing, so I bought it. It's £12. I have in fact, I have the £99. So I didn't think this is old behaviour, because it's not, I'm definitely not in debt because of it. But I just thought, oh, this is interesting. Let's see how long that'll annoy me sitting in the cupboard. And what'll save me is it only costs 12 quid. But over a period of time, I might decide to, I don't know, sell it on for 50 quid. I might decide to give it to a charity, or I might decide that I really like it and start using it a lot. So all these things, today I can listen to my, that's not quite my heart, because that's not quite the thing I mean, but just listen to myself and go, you've never juiced in your life. You never particularly wanted to juice. Let's give it a whirl, 12 quid. For a nearly new one. It might be fun, might be something I want to do, or it might not. In either case, I'm fine. I haven't had to borrow that money. That is the limit of how much that juice is going to cost me, is 12 quid. And I've done this with many other things, coffee machines, whatever. I love the idea of having a coffee machine. I love the idea of making coffee like that. But you know what? I probably used it 3 or 4 times. It's sat there, a thing of beauty, looking lovely. I was like, oh, do I really have to go through all that palaver to get a cup of coffee? So these are things that, start to shift in a small way when we start looking at really how much things are and how much we want them. Oh, I want a shiny thing. That can be a car, it can be an item of clothing, it can be a coffee machine, it can be, in my experience, it can be anything. I bumped into someone in the week who has, amazing earning potential in what he does. And I'd seen him maybe 2.5 years ago. He was in desperate straits. I made suggestions to him, and I could see he thought I was a complete idiot, which is fair enough. But I bumped into him yesterday, and he was like, so I got out of it, so it was fine. What he's doing a MA. He's borrowing money to do a master's degree. When he finishes the master's degree in a year's time, I would think his ability to earn from it will still be pretty low. But at the moment, he thinks he's getting away with it, and maybe he is, I don't know. And this is often what I see when people get overdrawn. They will sort of get very desperate, like this guy did today. Help, help, help. I've got 8 quid till Wednesday. What do I do? What do I do? How am I going to deal with the overdraft? And I spent about an hour and a half with him, and I thought, I wonder whether he'll stick to it. If he does stick to it, that'll be fantastic, because it'll show there's a shift in his mindset around this. But when I said you cannot live without an overdraft, you can't live on 500 quid for the next month, which takes him into the end of April. So it can't be done. What you can do is live with slightly less overdraft than you've got now. But on paper, it will look like you've paid it off, and then, oh shit, we've gone back into it again. The next month you pay it off, and then, oh shit, we go back into it again. And this ebb and flow is not incurring further debt. It's maintaining the debt that you have, servicing it, stewarding it, whatever term you like, less £1 every month. Okay, what's £1? What difference does that make to this, enormous amount of overdraft that I've got? It's not about whether it's £1 or not. It's about the intention. It's about the change of behaviour. It's about the change of thinking. And when you go, okay, this month I'm going to spend my overdraft minus, let's say £1, £5, doesn't really matter, small amounts. Bit by bit, that will change the thinking. It'll change the behaviour. It'll change the figures. and it frees the mind, the brain, whatever you like to call it. You know, it frees it up to come up with things that are much more creative, interesting, dynamic. You know, lots of people say, oh, I want to start a business, I'm getting all these wonderful ideas. You're like, okay, as long as you're not borrowing money to do that. If you can start a business without borrowing money, that's going to be fantastic. We're going to see a shift. And the income from that can be initially quite small. Get your salary paid into that account. You pay off your overdraft by only £1 a month or £5, whatever, very small increments. You start to find other ways to either bring in income, increase your income, or enjoy your time, your energy, your resources in a way that doesn't require using debt. And things become much more interesting. So I know it's a confusing subject, and we'll probably come back to it quite a few times. If you want to make any queries, put them in the notes underneath. Ask any questions about that, and I'll come back to it, because it is credit cards are a bit more straightforward. You know, loans to friends, etc. It's a simpler process. But because the money comes in and goes out and goes in and goes out, getting to a point of clarity about learning to live with your overdraft minus a small amount every month will be a completely new way of behaving. So I hope that's been helpful, and we'll come back to it again further down the line. But any questions, put it in the bottom of the post. Thank you.